Good afternoon, my friends. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where we are back with another live stream, and that is because Manchester United are back in action. These long weeks with no midweek games are incredibly long and boring and dull, but it does mean when we get to a Friday, I feel more appreciative of the fact that United are back. Even if United give me a bit of a headache sometimes and do have a tendency to ruin my weekends, I really appreciate these Friday morning, today afternoon streams where we get to talk about United in match action. And of course, this weekend, it's against Chelsea, so it doesn't exactly get any easier. Last week at the Etihad against City, this week Old Trafford against Chelsea. Not an easy game, but a winnable one and an excellent opportunity to get some momentum. So the plan for today's stream is to look at this Chelsea 11, also construct a Manchester United 11 that we feel can win this football match. That is the job of myself and also you guys as well in the chat. But before we do any of that, I want to hear from you guys. How are you? How's life? How are you feeling about Manchester United? Thoughts on the weather right now? Did you watch the Champions League matches? Because that was entertaining. That was really good. I've really enjoyed the Champions League this week. Let me know how you're feeling. We've also got a poll running in the chat right now for you guys with predictions for this weekend's result. We've got United win, draw, or a Chelsea win. And currently we've got 63% going for the United win. Now I dare say this poll might be a little bit biased. I hope it is. We're United fans. Let's be a little bit delusional. You know, let's ask United to win. Alex, good afternoon to you, my friend. Look at him there with the channel membership. Alex, thank you very much. As always, my friend, good to see you. Hope you have been well. Who else we got? We got David, we got Steve, we got Callum, we got loads of people in the chat. Good afternoon to you all. Apologies for the slightly different streaming time to normal. Just had a bit of a hectic day. Plus, I wanted to do the second channel video. Speaking of second channel, there's a link at the top of the chat. Thanks to David. So there you go. I want to do a second channel video looking at Barcelona and their impressive performance last night. But now it's time for the only team that anyone really cares about, right? And that is United against Chelsea. Like we said, the plan is to go through the team, to pick a goalkeeper, which is going to be an interesting conversation again this weekend. I don't know, is there a football club in the world right now where the goalkeeper conversation is such a big one? Probably not. We feel like we're talking about it every week. Last season, it was just like, yep, it's Onana, yep, it's Onana, yep, it's Onana. This season, there's actually a bit of conversation to have there. So we are going to do that again because we know who our options are now. Then we need to build ourselves a back three because let's assume Amorim's going to continue with that. We need to find ourselves a midfield. We need to find ourselves some wide players, some inside forwards, and also the striker. In terms of team news, I personally haven't seen any updates on injury, as in I haven't seen news that suddenly someone is available. So I think we are still without Cunha and Mason Mount. Does anyone know about Dalot? That is something I would like to find out at some point because he could be a useful player for this sort of match. Something else we have to think about as we head into this game, I know there's a lot, is Chelsea played, was it last night or the night before, in the Champions League. So potentially this is the first game week where we get to see the benefit of not having European football. Chelsea, in theory, might be a little bit tired. They might be a little bit jaded from the last match, whereas United should be fresh. And tactically, we've had a week to prepare for this game, which could be big. Chad, what have you done? That needs to go. But good afternoon to you, my friend. Josh, good afternoon. Good to see you, mate. How are you? Chad, that might be a permaban. That's crazy. That is crazy. AJ, you see the unpredictable power drive Cunha brings is the most important thing. Without Cunha, our team is not the level. Easily our best player. I think that's going to be a really fun conversation to have in May about who our best player was this season. The good thing is, hopefully, we are going to be talking about several of our new signings. You know, I can already picture Mbumo being in that conversation. Cunha, like you said. Bruno will always be about as well. Hopefully, in May, we're talking about our best player after we've just got ourselves in the top 6. That'd be nice. See, that cannot be the real me because he said he's going to do a hot chocolate stream, and I would literally never say that. I would never, ever, ever say that, so it cannot be me. Anyway, let's talk about United rather than Chad the imposter. Nope. It's not Onana in goal. I know that much. Is it going to be by India? Is it going to be Tom Heaton in goal? It might be. Or is it going to be our new boy making his debut? What do we reckon? What do we think? Last weekend by India. And the idea seemed to be, we've got a new young goalkeeper who doesn't know the league. He hasn't been with United very long. Let's not rush him into a big game. Is it different at Old Trafford? Is it different having home support, having your fans behind you rather than the opposition fans? I don't know. Personally, I'd like to see a change of goalkeeper. I also realised the other day, the way I say goalkeeper, I proper it at the end. Don't know why I'm saying that. I think we might need a poll for this one, though. I think we might need a poll. And I don't know, it's interesting to think, how long do we wait until we bring the new player in? How long do we wait with Le Mans? Is it something that we can do after the next international break, for example? Or do we wait for, let's say, I don't know, a Brentford, a Sunderland, a team that you would see as an easier game? Like I said, is it international break that we're waiting for? Why have I got my keyboard in a different postcode? I'm not sure why I've done that. Okay, here we go. Poll in the chat. Now, with the Benfica job taken, Amorim will put in an effort now. I would like to think he will put in an effort. I would like to think he has been already. I would hope. I would hope. Le Mans needs to start. What's the worst that can happen? You see, that's the thought process that I want to see. That's the optimism I want to see in life. What's the worst that can happen, right? Can't go that badly. David with the gifted membership. David, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much, guys. You know what to do. As Chad/I said, churn the tat green. I do. I say goalkeeper as though it ends in like UH, you know, all the time. Anyway, I'm really worried, man. I don't want Amorim to get sacked. He needs at least a season with more new players. So, as in, he needs a full season plus then another summer transfer window, I assume you're saying there. You know that the likes of Bruno and Mbeumo are class, but the opposition know what they're going to do and will prepare accordingly. Reason why Mbappe shines in the star-studded Madrid, he drives unexpectedly. I do agree. I think Cunha, on the point earlier, is one of those players that sort of just asks questions and comes up with stuff out of nothing. I always think, if I can find him, Xerxes actually profiles in a similar way to Cunha. Of course, not the same, but they're sort of similar players. But I just think the mindset and almost the aggression with which Cunha plays just makes them completely different. Like physically, they could be quite similar and have some similar skills, but mentally, the way they approach the game is very different. Yeah, an Old Trafford debut sounds good, right? What I want, Le Mans, what will happen, Altai. Yeah, that's fair. It's fair. Don't focus on how you say a word midstream. It'll get in your head, like when you realise how itchy your face is, or how often you blink, or like how you breathe. Enjoy. So the poll at the moment is quite one-sided. What is the reason for that? Is that shiny new toy? We just want to see someone different goal? Or is it that we don't like Bayinde? Or is it that we feel it's the right time? What's our reasoning for this? I'd like to see something. Xerxes with an engine and an I am him mentality. Exactly. My chair, I can just feel myself slowly sinking up. You'd think I'd replace it, but I won't. Zerg, good afternoon to you, my friend. I'm not sure if I can read the message out, but I like the thinking behind it. I'll read out this part. Like the stream, or ... You guys can fill in the blank. Agreed to Xerxes. He needs a couple of goals. All of them do. Yeah, we done a stream a few weeks ago, just before the start of the season, sort of setting out our expectations for United this season, how many goals we could get, how many goals different players could score. They've got some catching up to do early on. They're not on track. And Mbumo's the closest, obviously. But yeah, it would be nice if the ball would go in the net just a little bit more. We've got the second highest expected goals in the league. We've only scored 4. Now, I keep saying it. I do think context is important. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, we've got high XG, we must be amazing in attack. For example, against City, most of our expected goals came when the game was done, when City took their foot off the pedal. But I also think it goes the other way as well. So we should have scored more. I don't think we should be scoring 8 so far this season. I haven't seen the chance creation for that personally. But I think we should be scoring more. If you look at Chelsea, on the other hand, 7.7 expected goals, and they've scored 9. So they've got less XG than us and scored 5 goals more in 4 games. That sort of tells you something. I also think just an ability to score from set pieces and things like that would help us. We see other teams, a lot of corners, free kicks, are low XG opportunities a lot of the time because headers are quite difficult. And other teams are able to sort of stack them up. We don't seem to do that. You know, it'd be great this weekend if we just chuck 3 crosses in the box and Casemiro arrives for all of them. Lovely jubbly, 3-0 win. Nice and easy on to the next one, right? Be nice if we could do that. We haven't lost to Chelsea at Old Trafford post Sir Alex Ferguson. David, what have you done? What have you done? I can't believe you've done this in the Premier League. Now on manual breathing, enjoy, my friend. Breathing is overrated. Fact, I do have like certain days, today is one of them, where I just forget how to breathe. Like, I feel like I don't know how to breathe today. But it'll probably be okay, because as you said, it's overrated. Let's hope our new goalkeeper isn't overrated. Reason being, he wins the poll today. Le Mans in goal. Bayinde, get out of here, mate. Tom Heaton, enjoy the rest of your day. Go over there. Time for the back 3. So far this season, in the Premier League, we've seen consistency. We've seen the same back 3 for all 4 games. Luke Shaw on the left, De Ligt in the middle, Lenny Yoro on the right-hand side. Is it time for change? Change isn't always a bad thing. So, options. Get out of here. Maguire, definitely an option. De Ligt, he's an option. Lenny Yoro, an option on both sides. I should say De Ligt, an option across the back 3. Useful. Mazraoui, probably an option on the 2 outside positions. And fit now. And like match fit and match sharp, hopefully. Certainly getting close to it. An option. Luke Shaw. Didn't have the greatest game last weekend. Aiden Heaven. Always an option. Fredrickson, an option, but probably not one that's likely to come into the team, I wouldn't have thought. Now, I want to hear your back 3s. Of course I do. I want to see them in the chat immediately. But I also want to see reasoning, because I'll say it again, I always say it, I'm big on consistency. Being able to pick the same 3 regularly is not a luxury that we've had under Ruben Amorim. Last season, we didn't see the back 3 for more than 2 games in a row at any point throughout the season. This season, we've already seen the same back 3 4 times. 4 times? 4 times. We have the chance to extend it to a 5th game. We could go the same back 3 again, build consistency, help them understand each other. But also, we did concede 3 goals last weekend. Something didn't go right. Maybe a change wouldn't hurt. So if we are to make a change, what would your change be? You also say option. What am I meant to say? I don't even know how I would say that differently. At least goalkeeper, I'm aware of how I say it. Although even that, I couldn't say it in a different way. Chad, leave me alone. I don't like your profile picture. I'm a Norfolk boy. This is how I talk. Amorim about to break another record. Record breaker Amorim. Yeah, because we're going to get our biggest ever win over Chelsea, right? That's what you guys mean. Anyway, let's see some of these back 3s. So Alex has gone for De Ligt as the central one, Yoro to the right, Heaven to the left. I'd love to hear the reasoning for Heaven coming in. Left-footed. Mazraoui, De Ligt, Yoro. I'm assuming that runs right to left. Yoro on the left behind Dorgu. Could make sense in terms of his defensive athleticism. Gokku Konki, Yoro and De Ligt as the best back 3 in the club. A bold statement. Yoro, De Ligt, Mazraoui. Pick any 3, but with Shaw out. Poor Shaw. Luke Shaw for left wing back. Possibly. Oh, the chat just moved so fast and everything's disappeared and I don't know what to do and I'm overwhelmed. Heaven, Slabhead and Yoro. They can do everything we need and just need to be given the time to work together without subbing defenders off at 30 minutes and so on. I would like that, right? If we didn't change the back 3 mid-game. I sort of get it if you're... No, I don't get it. I was going to sort of like come up with a reason or a justification. Don't change your back 3. Just leave them be. Don't change them on the 65th minute. Unless someone's injured and we're forced to. Just let them play, right? Let them play. Chad, mate, I talk proper. So Alex's reasoning for the De Ligt, Yoro, Heaven trio was just the one change. More power and pace from Heaven to deal with the likes of Neto or Bino Gittins. It could also be Garnacho. I don't know what side he'd play if he plays, but yeah, we'll have that discussion a little bit later on. Where did the next message go? David, De Ligt, Yoro, Shaw. Shaw because I want to see him go forward and put him crosses in. Let Dorgu learn on the job. I have seen a shout, right? I've seen people saying that Dorgu's sort of strengths come from physicality. Fair comment. playing slightly more central. I'm not saying like inverted, but he does like to come inside a little bit. But his strengths aren't taking people on or crossing. I have seen some rogue shouts, and it is a rogue shout, but I'd like to hear thoughts on it. For that. Now, would it feel a little bit daft, right? Because, like, we signed him as a left wing back, to be changing his position would suggest we misprofiled him. But, you know, when we signed him, we signed a versatile player, a player who could play several positions. It's not uncommon to see a fullback playing on the side of a back three. Does it make sense to you guys? In terms of the athleticism he'd give you defensively, the channel coverage that it'd give you defensively, I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Because I have seen shouts for sure going wing back and Dorgu going here, actually swapping the two round. I'd like to know what you think. He doesn't feel comfortable going forward, Dorgu. It's a shame. Yeah, obviously he's also still very young as well, so it's not too much of a problem yet. Currently it's a weakness, but hopefully he'll add to that part of his game in the future, right? That'd be lovely. Fatigue factor is the only reason if they're all pushing high and having to do more recovery sprints. It does worry me a little bit. The sort of style of football we play is quite end-to-end. Physically, I always feel it's quite demanding. At least we do have less games than other teams, which should help us. More recovery. But yeah, it is something that I'm a little bit worried about. I just don't think Amorim is going to change anything. He's stubborn as anything. Yeah, possibly. Shaw is a wing-back who doesn't move. See, I wonder if I think the second we label them as a wing-back, we assume they're covering sort of like 90 yards, constantly sprinting. For example, if we could get the ball controlled, a wing-back can be the same position as an advanced full-back, can't they? You know, we've seen a back four team push their full-back forward for attacks. You know, Chelsea might do that with Reece James, for example. Could we do it with Luke Shaw, or can he physically not do it anymore? Yeah, we could just nail him somewhere. Shaw can't run, he will break. But does the wing-back position have to be? It can be. But does it have to be a relentless running position? Because there was an interview with Shaw, weren't there, where he was asked about his position. And he said, I'm playing in the back three at the moment as a centre-back. I like it, but I still see myself as a wing-back or a full-back. I'm sure he said that. Maybe I've made that up. If I have, I apologise. But I'm sure that was something that he said. Anyway, just going back to the back three for a moment. I'm seeing Euro in every team. I don't think I've seen a back three without Euro, which, first of all, shows how good he is. That's a young player. This is his first full season, I would say, because last year it was interrupted by injury right at the start. You know, this is Euro's first proper solid season at United. He's had a pre-season, etc. Lovely. He's so young, and already he's like the must start. Euro has to be an R11. Fair play to the lad. Hopefully it doesn't put too much pressure on him, but fair play to him. He's just quality. He's just different gravy, and to a lot of what the other things we got. I think I would stick with De Ligt over Maguire still for me personally. I think I would do that. Did I say that the right way around? I would stick with De Ligt over Maguire. Is what I meant to say. I don't know if I said that. I'd go De Ligt. I'd go Euro. For me, it's Mazraoui or Shaw. I like the idea of a Dorgu experiment. Perhaps we can discuss that in a video at some point, go a bit more in depth on that, and actually figure out if it can work. For me, it's Shaw or Mazraoui. Now, if you go for Shaw, it's this way round. That's your back three. But if you go for Maz, you do have options. You could stick with it this way, so you've literally only made one change in your defence, or you could flip them, which I would say is now 2 changes to your backline, even though the personnel was only 1. You've moved Euro into a different position, so I would still say it's 2 changes. But I think he's very comfortable here. I think Euro is more than capable of playing on the left side. I think Mazraoui is more than capable of playing right centre-back. Something to think about. Something to think about, particularly when we think a bit longer term. And if you start thinking about how United might look to press in this game, or how we might like United to press in this game, it's something to consider. It's definitely something to consider. I was going to say we'll do a poll, but I just feel if I do a poll, Mazraoui versus Shaw, I think Mazraoui is going to win it quite easily. So we'll go with these 3, but what we will do as a poll is go Mazraoui position, and you guys can go left centre-back or right centre-back. Sound right? I think realistically, this is the back three that a lot of people are asking for in the chat, just from what I'm seeing. You know, the comment, Shaw should never start for us, you know, sort of gives me that impression. Shaw could work at left wing back and then Dorgu in the second half. I said this in a video the other day, right? My logic was just, in the video, United like to use width in the final third. We like our wing backs to be wide. And we like to put a lot of crosses into the box very early. At the moment, we're using bad crosses to do it. You know, Dorgu's not good at crossing, despite his best efforts. Mazraoui's not consistently good at them. Dallow's not. Even Ahmad isn't a great crosser. Sort of my logic the other day is not that we have to change the system, but could we just swap some players into different areas to get the two best crossers in the crossing positions? Possibly. Possibly. Don't shoot me, but why not Mazraoui in at the 6? I have seen a lot of comments asking about this. And I'm now thinking, does it need a video? Does it need a video? It might need a video. Thanks for always reading my comments. There's a chance that was sarcastic. If I have been missing your messages, I do apologise, my friend. But at least I read out this one. And if it wasn't sarcastic, you're welcome. Amorim wants the centre-backs to step into midfield, but how do you maintain a defensive line and step into midfield? I can't work it out. It's tough, right? It's tough because I think centre-backs are capable of stepping out from their position. I think you can absolutely do that. Let's say you're picking up this player, he comes deep, you can go there. The bigger problem for me is when they start drifting that way, how far can you follow them? You know, if Bino Gittins is drifting over here, I'm right centre-back, I can't go defend over there. That's the problem. Not when necessarily players drop deep, but when they drop deep and then move. I don't know if you guys clocked it the other day against City. Yoro was obviously this side, and it was, I think it was Foden at the time. So let's just put Palmer here. So Yoro was following into this position, and let's say it was Foden. Yoro would follow him in here, and let's grab a couple of players. Who was it in midfield? I can't remember who played last week. Was it Ugarte and Bruno? So Yoro would come into midfield. So here we're now 3 versus 3. And the idea is that we're now not outnumbered because our centre-back has joined the midfield, which seems fine. The problem is opposition midfields, they don't just stand there like this, do they? They then move. You know, Enzo Fernandez might go a little bit higher. Palmer might drop deeper. He might even go over here. So Yoro's not only stepping into midfield, and sometimes it's the other centre-backs as well, but they're also then got to deal with midfield-like rotations. That's the bigger problem for me. They've got to go in areas where it's really, really difficult. It's one thing making up the extra number, but then actually pressing like a midfielder is difficult because, like I said, these players rotate. City done this very well. Reinders, Foden, and Doku was coming inside, and O'Reilly as well. They outnumbered United, and they then rotated, and it just caused a problem, really, didn't it? And we couldn't really ever quite keep up with it. I also don't think City were amazing last weekend, by the way. I just think they sort of were better than us. We got a $5 super chat from Abba. Thank you very much, my friend. Very kind of you. This is a really good comment. I like this because it's changing my way of thinking a little bit at the moment. He said, if only Amorim can put the ballers on the field instead of athletes, it would be much better. Give me people who can play football. No need for runners. First of all, thank you very much for the super chat. Guys, you know what to do. Get some love in the chat. But I think it's a really good point. It's a really good point. And I was making the point in Discord this morning or last night about Cobby. We always look at Cobby and we look at him and go, alongside him, he needs a big physical player who can cover a lot of ground to make up for Cobby's weaknesses. We always say that. I say it a lot. But what if that's wrong? What if we shouldn't be doing that? What if instead we should be finding a technical player to enhance Cobby's technical ability? More technicians, the better. And of course, it's Barcelona, right? That make us think this. We saw that game last night. But I actually first had the thought the other week watching PSG. Neves and Vitinha in midfield. I think if you put Vitinha in a Premier League double pivot, if you put Vitinha in the Premier League in a double pivot, or you put Frenkie de Jong in the league in a double pivot, I think you would say, alongside him, you need your big ball winner, right? You need that big guy to help him out. But if you look at what PSG and Barca do, they go, actually, let's get another technician with him to really get the most out of him. And obviously last night, Barca played Newcastle, probably the most physical team that English football has to offer, under insane intensity. The environment was crazy. And they coped quite comfortably eventually. So maybe we've been looking at this wrong the whole time, and actually your comment is spot on. Now, I do always think English football has room for physicality. I always think it's required. But maybe that first team in the Premier League that's going to evolve again, go backwards, but also go forwards again, and to become a super technical team, maybe they're the ones that are going to set the next trend. In the past 5 years, we've seen an increase of physicality, centre-backs at full-backs, 13-foot midfielders, trying to win the physical battles. Very 1 versus 1, right? The first Premier League team that evolves and goes back to that shorter, more technical approach with more freedom could be the one which really sets the trend for, I don't know, the next 5 years, for example, in the league. Could it be United with a player like Cobby and getting the right partner and using a Bruno with him as well, for example? It might be. It might be. But yes, thank you very much for the super chat and a really good comment as well. We've also got Alex as well with an important comment, and also 22-month membership. Membership, easy for me to say. Thank you very much, my friend. Passing players on to the next marker is a big issue. I completely agree. In the middle of the pitch, out wide, it's a problem that we have. From the wing-backs to the wide centre-backs, but also the wide centre-backs to the midfielders. It's a problem. It's a problem. Tell you what else is a problem. We're nearly halfway through the stream, and so far we've got a back three. And a goalkeeper. And a goalkeeper. So this is what we have gone for in the poll. Mazraoui won the position at right centre-back. Time for... Are we going for midfielders or are we going for wing-backs? What are we going to do next? We're going to go for... Should we go for wing-backs? I think it sort of carries on conversations we had earlier quite nicely. We're going to go for wing-backs. Sure, I will put into the conversation this week. Dalot, let's assume he's fit. I don't know if he is. Let's assume. Patrick Dorgu. And then we've got Ahmad on the right, and of course Dalot could come over here as well. There's even an argument that Dorgu could come play this side. There is an argument for that. So what do we reckon? What do we feel? What do we feel? Amorim will probably play by India as a striker. He could do. He could do. I want that Shesko first goal this weekend, by the way. Could Lisandro Martinez become our central centre-back and do the inverting into midfield role? I don't know. I just always think for me, it's always a little bit to be asking a centre-back to go play midfield. Whether it's in possession or out of possession, I think you've really got to be special. I'd say the one in English football that's done it really well at any point in the last 8 years was John Stones, and he is a seriously special player. I don't think those players come around too often, so I don't think it's always as easy as perhaps what we make out sometimes. Having said that, if anyone can, technically, it probably would be Licha. So maybe. Shaw would pull a hamstring in 5 minutes in that position. This is the problem. Technically, for the skill set that Shaw's got, I'm not going to say he's a perfect wing-back because I don't think he's a dribbler, for example, but his delivery in the final third is potentially really useful. You just worry about building a team with him, right, because of those injury-prone problems. Reece James has a similar problem, although he has started the season well. Dorgu is the only option for left wing-back. I think Dalot could come into the conversation if you don't want Shaw. Is Dalot fit or not? I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know. There's no point in playing defenders at wing-back when we concede so much anyway. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Right, let's do a left wing-back poll. I already know what you guys are going to say on the right, so we don't need that poll, but we do need the left. So the left, we've got Dorgu, we've got Shaw, and I will put Dalot in, even though I'm not entirely sure about his fitness. But let's do it. Bish, bash, bosh. Realistically, right wing back, you guys want Ahmad, and I'm not going to argue with it. I'm not going to argue with it. I spend all my life saying I want more forwards on the pitch. I want us to take the game to the opposition. Let's put a winger at wing back. I'm down for that. I'm down for that. So I'm more than happy for Ahmad to play this side. The other side, I honestly would like to see a Shaw experiment. But there's always just that fear that is he going to get injured in 3 seconds and we're forced into a sub straight away. Possibly. I don't want to see 5 defenders on the pitch. Yeah, I agree. Physicality-wise, Dorgu left wing-back and technically Ahmad at right wing-back. I think also we can see a nicer dynamic forming across the back five here in terms of if we want to swing to a different defensive shape. What we sometimes have is two fullbacks on one side of the pitch. So, for example, recently it's been Shaw left centre back, Dorgu in front. That makes swinging to a back four a little bit difficult because you've got two fullbacks on the same side. Whereas if we move Yoro across and put Mazraoui in on the right, I've lost him in the mayhem. We've got a fullback on this side, a fullback on this side. So there is a bit more potential for Amorim to be flexible, like he has been at times. We saw, even in pre-season at times, he would shift to a bit more of a back four in possession. United could do that with this setup. The poll early on is going Dorgu, so we're not going to leave the poll up any longer just because there's no need. Instead, we're going into midfield. Always a huge conversation because the midfield is such an important part of football, because we've got some good players here as well, but we don't have many of them. Casemiro, Ugarte, Bruno, Kobe. And on this one, what I am essentially going to do is throw the grenade in a room and hold the door shut. Get in the chat. What do you think about the midfield situation for this weekend? What would you be going for? What worries you about the Chelsea midfield? Because there's some good players in there. Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo. You know, probably over £300 million worth of market talent there, which is quite frightening. How do you go against that? Because they've started the season well in there. They have. There is also a chance it's a little bit different. Sometimes we will see, for example, in midweek, we saw Palmer went right wing, Enzo went into the 10, and James came into midfield. And Gusto went in at right back. So Chelsea do have options. They've also got Andre Santos, who could see some minutes in midfield as well. I think Maresca will go a bit more aggressive this game and go Palmer in the 10. I think he will think that they can get at us, so I think he'll do that. Right, let's have a look. What's the reaction to the grenade? I just know Amorim is going to pull a madness and put Ugarte with Casemiro. And then the next comment is Ugarte Casemiro pivot. Casemiro and Mainu, don't risk Cunha. Yeah, I'm assuming Cunha is out. And wait. Son, first of all, good afternoon to you. I hope you're well. Hope you're good. Mount and Cunha are back for the game, says Ruben. Is that true? Is that true, my friend? Because if that is true, that changes the conversations that we are about to have. Also, Luckhurst has left Manchester Evening News. Sorry, I just saw that. Is that true that obviously it doesn't affect this conversation too much? It's more of the next one. Although it does, it affects Bruno. Is that true? So what's the source? I know your sources are, you're good to be fair. You're good with your knowledge. But I can't find anything at the moment. His press conference is going right now. Did he actually say that? Okay. Right. So we're winning 4-0 this weekend and getting a title charge right back on. But we do need to sort the midfield first. Mainu and Ugarte. Mainu for the pressure release with his footwork, and Ugarte for his aggression, interception, and tackles. I like it. I'm giving live updates. Son, I love that from you. The press conference is right now, and they are seemingly available, which is big because it does really drop Bruno Fernandes back into the midfield conversation as well. I sort of came into today, you see it in the thumbnail, thinking Bruno goes left 10 in place of Cunha. Maybe this changes things. Right. Take a moment. Let it sink in. They are fit enough for being in the squad, says Son. And Son is always right. So Cunha and Mount will be part of the squad. Okay. I'm going to assume they weren't in the squad at all last week. So I'd be surprised if they come straight back into the 11. So perhaps they're fit enough to be on the bench. Is that what we reckon? We put them on the bench. We protect them. After an hour, we can look at them. Particularly Mount, we need to be really careful with because of his prior problems. What we're going to do, right, is we're going to assume they're on the bench. Okay, that's what we're going to do just for the purpose of this stream. If we get more info coming out, we will go from there. I would say Mount won't start. I'd be very surprised if we rush him back from injury. Cunha also, let's be careful. Let's say they're both on the bench and continue. So let's say these are our 4 midfield options. What are we doing in there? Now, no. What we're going to do is we're going to have the Bruno conversation first. So the Bruno poll is going to be in the chat. And basically the poll is going to be whether he plays left centre mid, so in the sort of double pivot, or whether he plays in the left 10. We'll do that. Once we know that, then we can go from there. Yeah, David, I think you're... Yeah. I don't think we risk him from the beginning, especially Mount. Especially Mount. But as bench options, I mean, our bench last weekend didn't look great. I wasn't particularly inspired by it. This weekend, the fact that we could have, you know, Xerxes, Cunha, Mount, maybe Kobe if he doesn't start, for example, from the bench is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. A lot of impact. Okay. So the poll says... Actually, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer. Ugarte and Mainu in midfield. I get the feeling Bruno's going to win a poll at left 10. And then, therefore, people will want Kobe in midfield. So then it's Casemiro and Ugarte. Who can get the best out of Kobe, but also who can help look after him as well. Right? I think that's sort of the conversation that we're going to be having here. Let me just quickly refresh this so that I can see. There we go. Bish, bash, bosh. By the way, guys, poll is in the chat. It's very simple. Click your chat to open it and then press a vote. You can vote for left 10 or left central midfield. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Number 10, I've had enough of this Bruno in midfield nonsense. So you may have seen a video from a certain man called Adam on YouTube. Amazing content. Maybe someone can link the video in the chat. And it was about Bruno Fernandes. Is he playing the wrong position at the moment? You know, I think the title was why Bruno Fernandes is United's biggest problem, something like that. But obviously he didn't mean that literally. The conversation was largely about Bruno not being close enough to the opposition goal. And the theme for me this week has been, can we return to basics? Basics being players where they're comfortable playing. Bruno can do a job in midfield. That does not mean he should be a midfielder. Where's Bruno best? He's best up here. He's best up here. This is where Bruno Fernandes is good at football. Right, he wants to play over here. This is where we want to get Bruno. So maybe for this weekend, back to basics, just find a way to get him in the final third. And the best way to do that is probably Bruno in this position here, right? I'm just saying. And the poll does agree. The poll does agree. So let's close it there. Midfield time. Midfield time. Here we go. Alex, is that Adam's video? I think it is. Guys, if you check in the chat right now, there's a message from Alex, which is a link to Adam's video. Now, don't go over and watch it right now, because I don't want to lose you on the stream. But after the stream, make sure you go and check it out. If not, there is a link in our Discord server to the video, because someone shared it last night, and it's just a very good video. All his content is good, so make sure to check it out. Right. So the poll has gone Bruno left 10, which means Kobe probably plays midfield. So therefore, we're picking a midfield partner for Kobe, and it's between Casemiro and Ugarte. Bosh. Bosh. Amorim has just said Mount and Cunha are back with the squad. Yep, we've had the live updates coming in the chat, and I think we're pretty up to date now with the team news. Seems as though Dallo and Lisandro Martinez still not back, which is weird for Dallo. Dallo doesn't tend to miss football matches, so he's obviously in a bit of pain with this one. Imagine how little problems we'd have right now if Casemiro is 27. Not just because of his physicality, but also because you could sort of like guide him a little bit more into a new style of football. Whereas probably at this stage in his career, it's not going to happen. I don't get how split this poll is. What has Ugarte done? As in, Zerg, I'm interested to hear. What has Ugarte done to deserve votes? Or what has he done so badly to not get votes? What way do you mean that? Mainu and Ugarte worked during the preseason. Yeah, they also worked pretty effectively together last season at Anfield, I believe. Was that a 0-0 draw where they played pretty well? We were discussing it last week as well. Also, yeah, I think we should listen to David in the chat. David said, let's bump those like numbers up, guys. And I really would appreciate it if you could. Views at the moment are low. Actually, only really on 1 or 2 videos. But I'm getting a vibe from the United fan base right now. Because it's not just my channel. A lot of channels are suffering. It ain't easy at the moment, right? United fans are not happy. United fans are not happy right now. But let's try and get some positivity going. Let's try and get some positive energy. Let's be the community together that believe United can win. And we spread good energy, which involves and includes leaving a like, getting involved in the polls, give your opinion, give your ideas in the chat. And, let's be positive and think that United can win this football match. Because I think we can. I know I said it last week, but I think we can. I think we can. Oh, yeah, it was 2-2 at Anfield. Where am I getting 0-0 from? That was season before, wasn't it? As in, what's he done well? Fair. Well, what he has done is won the poll. Ugarte, 56% of votes. Just dropped a like. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we're getting closer to our team now. We're getting closer. What way round would you go with these two? I'd go Ugarte on the right to help Ahmad. Because we've got a more defensive wing-back on the left. That's my thinking. I like the Shaw at wing-back shout, though. Yeah, I am worried about like the hamstring side of it. But maybe it could work. Maybe it could work. I want to win, but I don't want Amorim still in charge. That's a completely different conversation, my friend. We're not even going to have that conversation today. I did a stream on Tuesday, sort of giving my thoughts on the situation right now. I'm not particularly keen on Ruben right now, but I'm hopeful that he can change it, right? I hope he changes my mind. I hope in 3 months' time I love him because we're in the top 4 playing great football. That's the dream. That's the dream. I don't know if it's been suggested, but could you play Xerxes in the Cunha role, but actually use him more for possession and driving ability and play a slower, more possession-based game? Guys, what do we think? I think Xerxes could play in the left 10. I think he could. I've lost him again. Probably not this game. Now we've voted Bruno there. But generally speaking, I think we do believe Xerxes is a player that can go and play that position. Callum has also said, could you go Bruno and Cobby in centre mid? We said earlier about trying to be more aggressive. Maybe. Maybe. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Feel we need more crosses to our 6'5" striker. Not even necessarily more crosses, just better quality. Dorgu's attempting a lot of crosses. I had a stat the other day. Dorgu and Dallo are in United's top 4 for crosses into the box. They're the wrong players to be so high. You want your Brunos up there, your Mbumos, but also your other high-quality crossers in those wide positions, spamming the ball into the box. Luke Shaw is one of our better crossers. He's obviously got weaknesses these days, right? But he is a good crosser. He delivers the ball well. Acceptable. Maybe it's the depression of terrible football creeping in. Oh, I completely get it, mate. I completely get it. I completely get it. Hope things work out with Amorim. Really want him to succeed. Be nice. It would be nice, right? If we can all just go off into the sunset with a great manager who plays great football and we win great trophies. We produce great players. Beautiful. Beautiful. We can dream. We can dream. Bruno and Cobby, why not just forfeit the game? I think we get 0 points if we forfeit, so probably not the best idea. We would concede 6 or 7 goals with both Bruno and Mainu in the pivot. So this is the point I was making earlier. I'm not saying this is like for like. But we always assume, like I said earlier, we get a Cobby who's got a physical weakness. We assume we've got to put him with a 6'5" beast. Maybe you put technical players with technical players instead, rather than technical with physical. Again, the example is Barcelona. Pedri and De Jong. If you put them two in the Premier League, everyone would go, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. You need a Declan Rice with him. You need an Amadou Onana with him, I would have said. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need more technical players. Vitinha and João Neves. Granted, they've got great intensity. And the Barca boys do as well. But maybe we've been looking at it wrong for a bit. Maybe there's been too much of a shift towards needing physicality. Maybe we need to find that middle ground closer to the technical side as well. I don't know. It is something to think about. Also, conversations about Xerxes a false 9. Especially if you could get runners around him. Again, maybe you don't quite get it with Bruno and Bumo, for example. But if you could go... Who would be your 2 best runners? Mount's a good runner off the ball. Boomer would be one of them. I'm not sure. But AJ, the Viper, lost to the Mountain. No 3 at the back. It doesn't work. But we can't compare Cobby and Bruno to the Barca midfield. Yeah, that's why I said right at the start. It's not, of course, copy and paste. You know, I'm not saying it's like for like. I'm just saying, theoretically speaking, when we find a technical player, do we always have to partner them with a physical player? Or could we put 2 technicals near each other? If you think about United over the past few years, right? Was it last season? There was a spell where we kept bringing Xerxes on from the bench, and every time he would come on, I think sometimes it was like him and Cobby would come on at the same time, and just instantly the technical level of the whole team went up. Like those 2 coming on were good themselves, but they made Bruno better because Bruno's a player who wants to link and pass and create and play with intelligence. Bruno was always good with Martial because there was an intelligence there, players that wanted to play on a similar wavelength. Is that something that United need to consider? I don't know who. I don't know who the personnel for that job are. But do we need to try and find more technical players that can sort of have synergy together rather than being so focused on always trying to mask weaknesses? Can we play to strengths a bit more? I don't know. I think it's something to think about. Wise United fan, good afternoon, my friend. How are you? And Glenn, good to see you, mate. How are you doing? Šeško and Mbumo, because I remember Šeško playing as a 10 in Leipzig last season. That would be a lot of fun. We did see Amorim at one point with Sporting using, who was it? Harder, the striker, in sort of like a left-hand position, and he really used him as like a high runner. That could be a bit of fun to see. For this week, I think this is more likely, but it could be fun to see. If 2 technical centre mids came up against a beast, they'd need to box very clever. I don't think that happens in the Premier League unless they're exceptional. Yeah, I mean, probably, you know, me, I'd want a 3-man midfield anyway. But, you know, we saw the way that Barcelona approached that last night. We always think the reason you need physical players is because if I'm against a physical defender, I've got to be able to match him. But what if I'm technical enough that I can get the ball to move quicker? If I can get the ball to move quicker than their physical ball winners, then they're always going to struggle. Because that's what I felt Barcelona did last night. Newcastle had the more powerful, physical, dominant midfield. They're insane, aren't they, Newcastle? We've been there ourselves and been destroyed by them. Joelinton, Tonali, Guimaraes do a ridiculous amount of work. Like I said, probably the most physical the English football has to offer right now in the top flight. And Barcelona just didn't let them get close eventually. Because Frankie wasn't going shoulder to shoulder with Joelinton. He was making sure he was clever and sort of like 2 yards ahead of him every time. So they never went into the physical duel because technically he was faster than him. Mentally, Pedri especially was... Now, obviously, we're talking about the extreme example here. 2 of the best midfielders on the planet in terms of their profile. But it just made me think. It just made me think that maybe we need to start looking at something a little bit different. I might do a video on it at some point. I might do some more research, see how it can work, can't work, etc. I don't know. It's just something that crossed my mind. The Barcelona way of playing football was enjoyable. That's all I'll say. I'm giving the manager time. This is a big job. It is certainly a big job. They don't get much bigger than that, do they? You know, it's a tough job. It's a tough job. Anyway, are we happy with this starting 11? I'm just thinking, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Strength number 1, I think we've got a defensive shape that we can go into that is more aggressive than usual. If we wanted to, this team out with possession, which Amorim sometimes does, and that's key. We're not asking for a new thing here. We're asking for more of a consistency. We could go to a back 4 out of possession. Amorim sometimes already does this. I'm not trying to change the shape. We could go to a back 4 off the ball. And Bruno's not in the double pivot, which might be a good thing. Cobby isn't necessarily like a defensive expert all of a sudden either. But I do feel it could be better than Bruno there. I think Cobby might be a bit more switched on around our box. If you remember his debut against Everton, I think defensively it was phenomenal. His reading was so good in deep areas. This could be nice. You're keeping Mbumo high, which is good. You've got fullbacks in wide zones, centre-backs in central zones, wide players out wide. Bruno's the one who's sort of a little bit out of position. but that works defensively if we wanted to do that. I could see that being good. Can you imagine if we won the ball back in this little wide zone over here and the ball breaks to Bruno? He sort of gets his head up and he's got Shesko running this channel, then Mbumo going in there, and maybe Ahmad far side as well. Like, come on, that's serious. They're good runners. They're good players to be playing the ball forward to. Something to consider. Slower possession. What do we reckon? We got Yoro and Mazraoui as the sort of wide progression. Sure, I don't mind that. In midfield, we've got a safe passer in Ugarte, I would say. Not an expansive player. Sometimes a bit clumsy losing the ball, but he doesn't play a lot of daft passes. You know, he doesn't put the ball at risk in that way. Kobe, good at absorbing the pressure, but we are lacking passing range, I would say. We're lacking a player who's going to sit in and ping it out to the wing back constantly. We're lacking that a little bit. And Amorim normally likes it. So we'd be lacking a little bit in Amorim's mind, I think. On the left, we're lacking a little bit of a winger. You know, a dribbler with Dorgu and Bruno. We're lacking a little bit, but we've got serious creative levels with Bruno. I like that front three. I think you've got a nice blend there of creativity, runners, power. You've got left footers, right footers, 2-footers. I quite like the blend of that trio. And then more this side, you got that question there with Ahmad and Mbumo. They're not quite linking up just yet, but again, give it time and they could. And the only way for them to ever make it work is by playing together, right? I think Mazraoui behind them, you know, his intelligence could be useful for getting the best out of them. Ugarte's got the sort of defensive work rate to potentially protect them in transitional moments. If he could do it a bit better, that'd be nice. Other side, let's mark him out properly. I think Alex just mentioned this in the chat as well, right? Did I see that out of the corner of my eye? Maybe talk about the wide diamond. Yeah. I mean, first of all, on the ball, this is where United tactically tend to get an advantage because we often play with 4 here up against 3 for the opposition. So the opposition will get a midfielder over there, a winger and a fullback. But obviously we have more, which is why so often we can find that space for this player here. My concern would be that we still don't exactly have an optimal crosser into the box. Maybe, is there a world where United can delay the cross? We seem to cross so quick. Rather than playing that cross immediately and whipping it into the box, could we see more of either sort of a setback to Bruno, who then crosses, his right foot with perhaps Mbumo back post, could be quite useful. Or can we delay it and wait for the underlap and then look for more cutback-based football, which we saw a lot more of last season, I would say. I don't think this season we've seen quite as much of it so far. I think this has been lacking a little bit, to be honest. But Bruno from that sort of zone is someone who could definitely create chances. With Shesko in there, Mbumo arriving, but even one of the midfielders arriving late could have some joy from that, sort of ghosting him behind Caicedo possibly. So there's something in that, I think. But like I said, there is that lack of proper wing on that side, which is a little bit concerning. If we go to the other side, I think there's that lack of touchline threat. I think Ahmad and Mbumo both want to come inside. Although I will say, even since the first game they've played together, I think they got a little bit better already. You know, it's been brief, but I think they have already made a little bit of improvement together. I think they're already understanding each other just a little bit more, which is good. Like I said, Ugarte sort of protects them defensively. Mazraoui's intelligence could be key. And you would also fancy these two potentially in transition to back things up. Ugarte sort of being aggressive, Mazraoui's wide defence. Could work quite nicely. Could work quite nicely. The overloads look good on paper, but they don't appear in practice. I think they do with the wing back. I think we then, or especially on the left side, they do. I just don't then think we capitalise on it. I said Dorgu last week against City had so much space. I think he had more touches in the box than anyone on the pitch, which is crazy. The problem is he couldn't make the most of it, really. The cut inside and use the inside foot gives the striker time to attack the box, and the same for the opposite side. See, it's little differentials like that, I think. It just gives the attack, the other forwards, whoever, just that extra 1.5 seconds just to be a little bit further forward. So the speed of attack isn't quite as insane. And perhaps just being that little bit further forward, delaying things by 2 seconds, perhaps just doing that is enough to get the defensive unit up to counter press as well and things like that. Maybe that's something that we should do. At the moment, it feels very like, all right, get the ball out there, cross it into the box. Crap, we lost it. Now we've got to defend the transition. Maybe that extra cutback then allows those numbers to arrive at the back, but also allows the midfielders to sort of walk it in and secure that second ball. Almost like what teams do on set pieces, where the players on the edge of the box for the attacking team sort of walk it in as the corner is taken to secure the second phase. Maybe we need to try that a bit more in open play. Can Šeško beat Tosin? He's good, isn't he? He's good, Adebayo. So good in the air. He's a massive, massive fella. Šeško's leap, though, is pretty insane. I also wonder if you're actually maybe looking more for like an Mbumo sneak. You know, could Šeško sort of occupy two centre-backs at once? And suddenly you'd back Mbumo in the air against Correa, I think. Maybe that's what you'd be looking for a little bit more. I think people really underestimate how good Bruno and Mainu can be together. I think they can be amazing together. Not necessarily two midfielders next to each other, although that is also potentially a solution. That could be one of them playing a 10 role, one of them centre mid. It could be a few different systems, but where they're close to each other, I think they can perform. Cunha and Mount are back. They might start. I think they'll be on the bench, to be honest. Particularly Mount. Cunha could come straight back in, depending on the injury. Mount, I think, because of his problems, we will always play it safe with Mount. So I would expect Mount to come back next week. Probably on the bench this week. Cunha, I'm not sure, although I would still probably expect bench for the sake of playing it safe. It's not like we have no one. Although, maybe I'm waffling here. Would that be a sign of the pressure that Amorim is under? For example, if you need a win, do you take that risk, that bit more of a gamble on starting a Cunha? Maybe, but I'd be surprised if either of them start, personally. We were top of the league before City for winning second balls. Yeah, we started the season well in that department. I think we can get better if we're slower. If we're slower, the players will have more energy because they'll be running less, but also they'll have more time to get into position to win the balls that come back out as well. So we've been good at it. I think we can improve as well. They're starting AJ. Glenn, both of them, you reckon? See, getting both of them in the team even is tough. When you've got Šeško and Mbumo in the front line, it's difficult. Mount will be on in the last 10 to 15. I mean, if we talk about that for a second, right? Let's assume somehow we've got the right starting 11 here. And I don't know if we ever have got the 11 right. We probably have at some point. We've done it long enough. But let's assume this is the United 11. If we're looking at subs, I think we've got some options now which can hurt the opposition. These three in particular, as bench options, are quite nice. It's quite nice. We're probably lacking a little bit of depth at wing back. Shaw is probably the only one, really. Dallo out. That's not great. Because I don't want to change the centre-backs mid-game. For example, you could go, like Maguire goes there, De Ligt comes across, Mazraoui goes higher, for example. But in an ideal world, we wouldn't do that for me. But I do think these four are nice options from the bench. And I can imagine if we need a goal, we should put Casemiro in that as well. I can imagine if we need a goal, Bruno could drop deeper, Kobe could come off, and Cunha could come on. You know, I could see that sub taking place to put United on the front foot more. I could see us doing that. Hot take, Cunha was an unnecessary signing, should have been a midfielder instead. I think one of the forwards was an unnecessary signing. I think you can almost decide amongst yourselves which one it is, sort of thing. It depends what profile you think we need more. I don't think we necessarily needed three, not ahead of a midfielder, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's just reset the 11. Like that. Bosh. Even Casemiro as a bench option isn't bad. Yeah, I just forgot about him initially. Yeah, set pieces especially. He's got goals against Chelsea in the past. He's been a weapon for us. That's the point. What do we think of this team physically? It's not the biggest United team we're ever going to field. No Casemiro, no Maguire. But Šeško, De Ligt, Yoro, bit of height in them. Chelsea aren't a massive team themselves, just looking through. Centre-backs are big. Adebayo and Chalobah, both tall guys. James isn't small, but he's not exactly like a 6'3" guy. Their midfield's a little bit small. Chelsea can compare to, for example, City with Rodri or Arsenal with Rice. Caicedo and Enzo, brilliant players, but not the biggest in the world. Not the biggest. Hope to see a better performance by Ugarte. Yeah, I think for United to win, Ugarte, if he was to start, probably needs to put in his best performance of the season. I think that's fair to say, because he started a little bit slow. Mainu isn't as small as people think. Yeah, fair point. Yeah. I mean, even Mazraoui is bigger than we think as well, right? Like, you see him line up next to De Ligt, for example. He's really not that much shorter than him. Why always Bruno when we have Xerxes? It's an option. It's definitely an option. Again, if we're talking about height, that's something you could do. Like I said, or as a sub, if Cunha isn't ready, could you go Xerxes left 10, Bruno goes deeper, Kobe or Ugarte come off? That's possible. That's possible. I think Bruno will start, just because I'd be surprised if he didn't. You know, Amorim clearly want to keep him in the summer. He's club captain. I think he'd have to play very, very badly to get dropped right now, just because I think that's how it is. Can we get a poll of Xerxes versus Sesko? I'll tell you what, we can. We can, because I did sort of just brush over that and put him in the team, didn't I? So we can. There we go. Sesko, Xerxes for the striker position. Obviously, both give us something very, very different. Could we see, say if it was Xerxes, could we see his movement sort of dragging a centre-back to then make that Mbumo space? Possibly. But it probably only leaves us with one proper runner immediately high. Where can we line up our subs? Where can I put our subs that they're not, like, obstructing everything? I don't know what you guys can see on the screen. Let's just line them up down here. These are our super subs, all right? They're going to come on late on and destroy Chelsea. We'll already be 3-0 up. These guys will come on and make it 5. That's the dream. Personally, I'd start both. Who are you taking out, though, Callum, I guess is the question. You had Ugarte out, didn't you? Because you want Bruno deeper. Hot take, I would drop Bruno in the game versus Chelsea. I mean, we can do a poll on that if you like. We can do a poll on that. We already know his position if he does play, but top left, yeah. I'll do it in a sec, Alex. Makes more sense. Have you seen that Mount and Cunha are available? I have. I wasn't aware of it before the stream, but Sun broke the news for us during the stream. What a legend. I think it's unlikely that either of them start, but in terms of options from the bench, if you look in the top left of your screen now, Cunha and Mount being there is big. Really useful. We have to back players. Sesko needs minutes. Yeah, the poll is sort of agreeing as well. We want to see what we paid for with Sesko by actually scoring a goal. Well, I'll tell you what, that brings us on to the next conversation quite nicely. Score predictions. Score predictions for this one. Wait, how close is this 11 to what I had in my thumbnail? Oh, I had Cassie. I had Cassie instead of Ugarte. In terms of what I predicted we would end up with. Not far off. Not far off. Score predictions in the chat. But not just your score predictions in terms of the score line. I also want to know who's grabbing the goals. Who is it that's going to grab the winner for us? And if you are a member on the channel, if you open up your emojis, you will have some custom emojis of some of these guys. So you can predict your goal scorers with emojis. Not all of them though, unfortunately. I will just wait for those scorelines to come trickling into the chat, and then we will continue. That's why Cunha and Mount are both needed. They can both drop deep to draw the Chelsea centre-backs out, and then the space in behind for Mbumo is there to run. Love from Nigeria. Thank you very much. Yeah, I do agree with that concept of making space for Mbumo. I'm sure there was a comment from Amorim about one... It was the start of the season when Sesko wasn't playing, obviously, and it was Cunha and Mount with Mbumo. I'm sure there was a comment he made one week about wanting an extra runner, about only having one runner in the front line and ideally wanting two. I'm sure that was a thing. I'm sure that was a thing. Okay, so we got Josh in the chat with a 9-month membership. Josh, thank you very much. I'm not laughing at your membership. I'm laughing at the 1-0 win. We have the goalkeeper coach. Edge of the box, screamer off the bar. I have no idea what you could be referring to, there. What a goal, by the way. What a goal. Thank you very much for the prediction and the membership as well. We've also got David with a prediction via his super chat. David, thank you very much. And those emojis look beautiful. By the way, guys, love hearts all over the chat for both David and Josh. David says 4-2 Manchester United. Yes, goals, entertainment, I'm here for it. Šeško brace, then Kobbie Mainoo, then Bruno Fernandes. Whew. Yes, please. Yes, please. By the way, Josh's actual prediction is a 2-0 loss with Enzo and Garnacho. We never mentioned it. Let's highlight him. What do we do if this guy scores? What do we do if we lose 1-0 and this fella scores? Where do we go from there as a club? Because, he didn't leave on good terms, did he? He's a difficult one to back. You look at like McTominay at Napoli, for example. The way he left was completely fine, completely normal. Go have a great career, mate. Even Rashford was quite respectful of the club, I always felt. He never actually publicly asked for anything. Garnacho made it very clear he wanted out. So he's a difficult one to sit there and go like, oh, I hope he has a great career. If this guy scores and we lose, it will be a tough one. It will be a tough one. You know what? I don't even want to think about it. Get out of it. Get out of it, mate. We riot, yeah. Drink beer, a lot of beer. Hoping Ugarte snaps him. We all know he's celebrating if he scores. Oh, 100%. He'll sue on us or something, mate. Or he'll go jump on the advertising board, won't he? Yeah. I like this from Alex, by the way. He says if he wants 2 runners, then a 3-4-1-2 with Bruno as the 1, and then you've got your pick of Mbeumo, Cunha, and Šeško for your front line. I mean, particularly for this week. Gets an extra body in midfield, which is good. Gets 2 runners on the front line, which is good. I like that. Defensively, actually, it makes a lot of sense as well with the way that we press. We often see this shape anyway, where normally this is the striker drops deeper. If Bruno's already there, it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Could see that. We can't score and beat Grimsby comfortably, but you guys are confident we're winning tomorrow. We are winning tomorrow, mate. I don't make the rules. We just are. We just are. All right, more score predictions. I'm seeing 2-2. I'm seeing a few 2-2s, to be fair. 3-0 Garnacho hat-trick. Oh, wait, I forgot he doesn't play for us. 3-1 to Chelsea. Guys, what happened? What's happened? Has the stream been that bad? I did a poll right at the start of the stream, and over 50% of people said United were going to win. Now I'm looking in the chat, and I'm seeing, like, draws and losses. Where are the people gone who said we were going to win? Where are you gone? Where are you gone? We need that positivity. Garnacho scores and runs to the bench and shushes Amorim. Okay, as much as I would want to kill him, part of me would find it slightly funny. Just because it would be a funny image to see a player shushing a manager. We've all lost hope. It seems that way, my friend. 4-0 Chelsea if Bayindir plays. 2-0 United if Le Mans starts. Well, we've got Le Mans in, so it's 2-0 United. Steve missed the start. Fair comment. Callum says a 4-1 That's more like it. Xerxes, Šeško, Kobbie Mainoo. Yes, please. 4-1 win United. Yes. Oh, you want my prediction, do you? Okay. You can have my prediction. I'm going to say... 3-2 Manchester United. 3-2 United. Goal scorers. United go 1-0 up. Loki barks. So United go 1-0 up with a goal from... Dog continues barking. United go 1-0 up. Let's try again. United go 1-0 up with a goal from... Šeško. Šeško gives Man United a 1-0 lead. Lovely. Lovely stuff. Soon after that... Mbeumo scores. 2-0 Man United. Then it starts going wrong. Oh my god. Crisis. Chelsea score. Palmer, I'm going to guess. Chelsea score again. It's 2-2. This time with a goal from Enzo Fernandez, because he seems like the type of annoying player to score against us. But don't worry, guys. We've got a late winner. And that late winner is coming from... We've said Šeško already. We've said Mbeumo already. An 84th minute penalty from Bruno Fernandes. United go 3-2 up. From the bench, Casemiro gets himself on. We park the bus. We lock it down. We have the most stressful last 5 minutes you've ever seen. But it's fine because we win 3-2 and we all believe we're going to win the league. Now, I'm never going to encourage gambling, but that's a pretty safe bet if I've ever heard one. It's not actually. That's not financial advice. I feel like I need to get that out there. We got Steve Brooks in the chat with 5 gifted memberships. Steve, thank you very much, my friend. Guys, if you did get gifted a membership, make sure to say thank you. And even if you didn't get gifted a membership, make sure to spam some love hearts and some flames in the chat, just like Callum, just like Sun, because it's these super chats, these memberships, which keep the channel going, particularly when the United fan base is a little bit low at the moment and the views are as well. So thank you very much for that. Huge. Thank you very much. Amador and Bumo crossing the ball towards Sesko. That's what we need. It's what we need. Is Hoyland still one of our emojis? He is. We can probably change that, can't we? We can probably change that. So basically the game against Burnley. Haha, I see you've played these games before, my friend. Yeah, but we win 3-2, right? And that's all that matters. Too late. I've already chucked my life savings on that prediction. Well, Josh, it's been an honour, my friend. Just don't take me to court. If we score more goals than them, I think we might win. Ooh. See, normally I would agree with you. But, devil's advocate here. Does we scoring include own goals? Because at that point, I'd argue we could technically score more. But if they're in our net, we might lose. Just saying. Scoring 3 is a big shout, lol. Just trust the process, okay? You just got to trust the process. There's no logic behind it. My brain has not been applied to that at all. Just vibes. That's right. That's right. Ball in the box, simple but effective, lol. Sometimes it's all you need. Simple game. Chuck it at the big man and hope he heads it in the net, and we celebrate. By the way, we need that Sesko first goal, and it coming at Old Trafford would be really nice. There's something about any new signing is fun, particularly forwards. They're great. They get the first goal, lovely. But you can't beat your number 9 getting on the score sheet and then going on a run of games where he scores 3 and 4, for example. I would love that for Sesko right now. That would be lovely. Please, please and thank you. If I could pick someone to score the winner, like through choice, it would probably be Sesko. I'd love that for him. Own goal top scorer at the moment, so maybe. It's possible. It's possible. Anyway, I think we've covered everything that we needed to cover in this stream. We've discussed the starting 11, we've looked at the subs, we've said our score predictions, we've looked at a couple of tactical things, and then we have deluded ourselves into thinking that United are going to win the match comfortably. So I think that is job done for today. I think we've had a really, really good stream, I will say. If you have enjoyed the stream as much as I have, if you could please leave a like on it, that'd be amazing. If you're new, subscribe, ? Please. Notifications on as well. That'd be great. Also, we do have a second channel called AJ Talks Tactics, where basically I don't even care about the views on it. I just do it for a hobby where I like to cover interesting matches or matches that entertain me. If you want to go check out that second channel, there is a link at the top of the chat right now. For example, this morning we looked at Barcelona's win over Newcastle. Recently, we looked at Arsenal's win against Bilbao because I thought that was impressive. We've covered a few different games, to be honest, so go check it out. And also, there will be some player analysis on that channel as well of random players, like an Elliot Anderson, for example, or a Pedri, perhaps. So if you are interested in that, make sure to check out the second channel. And also, one last plug, if you head to the description, there is a link to our Discord server, completely free to join. Just make an account and press join. Like, it's free, literally no charge. And you've got 800 people, nearly, waffling about football, waffling about Manchester United, talking about FPL, talking about gaming. New FIFA's out soon, for example. Lots of stuff going on. So if you are interested, head to the Discord server. I will be there as well. Throw in some random comments out there. So, yeah. That's what we can do. In terms of today, though, I think we're finished. There's not going to be a video out today or tomorrow, I don't think. Just because people seem a little bit tired of United right now. So I'm going to leave it until the Chelsea game, and hopefully that gives us something. Chelsea coverage will be out first thing Sunday morning. So that is when I shall see you next. Unless I see you on the second channel beforehand, which is possible. I'll let you know. If you want to keep updated, head over to the Discord server. But like I said, today's stream, today's content, that is it. We are done. So thank you guys very much. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the gifted memberships, for the super chats, for the renewal of memberships. Anyone that voted in the poll, anyone that liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord server, checked out the second channel, or just sat there waffling along in the chat, or even just sat there quietly watching the stream. Thank you very much for your support as always. I hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully this is one that United don't ruin. Please, it'd be lovely. and I shall see you all in a few days for more Manchester United coverage, because no matter what happens to United, the content isn't stopping anytime soon.